Welcome back to another episode. And today I want to start by asking you something before we even begin. When you imagine your business, when you first saw it in your mind, before the strategy, the documents, the launch plans, and the content calendars, what did you feel? What did it feel like? Not what it looked like, what it feel like. Did it feel like freedom, like purpose, like finally doing something that matters on your own terms? Because I have sat with many women entrepreneurs, and every single one of them, every time they answered the same way. They started with that vision, with that motivation, with that feeling, something that it was so powerful. The vision of a business that it gave them life instead of taking it, that it felt like they can do it with no problem. And somewhere between that moment of motivation, of vision, and the time where they are now, something happened. Something shifted for them. The freedom is started to feel like a trap. The purpose is started to feel like pressure. The business that it was supposed to give them life, now it started to cost them everything they had. They felt tired. Nobody told them that that was coming. Nobody told them that the way most people are told to build business is specifically designed to burn out. The hustle strategy is strategy that is heavy, push through even through the pain. That model of entrepreneurship has an expiration date built right into. That if you build from the outside in, from the tactics, from the trainings, from other people's blueprints, you will eventually arrive at the destination that it doesn't feel like yours. It feels chaotic. It feels like you're lost, like you don't even know what is next to do. Today, we're going to talk about something completely different, a completely different way to build a business. Not slower, not softer, not less ambitious. Differently. From the inside out, from alignment instead of urgency, from identity instead of imitation. This episode is not about surviving your business. It's about building one that you will never have to survive again. So let's start it. Let's go. Before we talk about how to build without burning out, I want to make sure we understand why burning out while building is so common. Because it's not random, it's not just a personal failure, it's a predictable outcome of a specific approach to entrepreneurship that it has been normalized through culture. And most of us inherited that without ever questioning the process, the way of doing business. So let's question that right now. The model that most of us were handed, whether through business, through courses, mentorship, social media, or just the culture of entrepreneurship, goes something like this: work harder than everyone else, show up every day, no matter how you feel, outproduce, outmarket, outconsist your competition. Revenue solves all the problems. Growth is the goal. Rest is for later. Later, when you already done everything and you made it, then you take a rest. And that model works for a while. It produces momentum. It produces results. It produces the initial rush of building something real from nothing. And then, for most women, running purpose-driven business is starting to crack. It's starting to break. Not because they did something wrong, but because that model was never designed for the kind of business that they're actually trying to build. Here's what I mean with that. There are two fundamentally different types of business, and most entrepreneurship advice does not distinguish between them, which is where the problem begins. The first type is a transactional business. It's built around exchange. You have something, someone wants it, they pay for it, transaction complete. This kind of business can operate without much emotional investment from the owner. It can scale through systems, delegation, automation. The owner does not have to be deeply and personally connected to the work for the business to function. The second type is a transformational business. And this is what every woman in this community is building, whether she knows it or not. A transformation business does not exchange goods or services, it exchanges people. It requires the owner to bring the fullest, the most present, the most energetically alive version of herself to the work, because that is the actual product, the transformation. Her client's experience is inseparable from who she is when she shows up to deliver. You cannot outsource your energy. You cannot make that automatic authority. You cannot delegate your presence. Which means in a transformation business, the entrepreneur is the asset. And when the asset is depleted, everything stops. This is why burnout in purpose driven business hits differently than burnout in other contexts. It's not just that you're just tired, it's that the very source of your business value, your insight, your compassion, your energy, your authority goes offline. And no strategy in the world can compensate that. So, the first thing I need you to understand, the fundamental truth of this entire episode is this. In a transformation business, sustainability is not a luxury, it is the strategy. Protecting your energy is not self indulgent, it's the asset to management. Building sustainability, not choosing comfort over ambition. It is a choosing longevity over velocity. Because what good is a fast building if you cannot stand in it while you're building? Now, let me show you exactly where the burnout happens. Because burnout in entrepreneurship does not arrive all at once. It accumulates, it builds in layers, and most women do not recognize it until they are deep in it. The first layer is what I call output without input. You are producing content, you're coaching, you're offering, you're launching things at a rate that far exceeds how much you are receiving. Receiving rest, receiving inspiration, stillness, receiving the kind of deep inner nourishment that it feels the well from which you're creating everything. When your output consistently exceeds the input, the well eventually runs dry. Not as a metaphor, as a neurological and energetic reality. The second layer is performance without presence. You're showing up, but you're not really there. You're going through the motions of the business without genuinely connecting to it. You're making the content, taking the calls, posting the posts that they feel hollow, like you are just watching yourself from the distance. This is one of the earliest signs that your nervous system is moving into conversation mode, pulling you back from full engagement as a form of self protection. The third layer is identity erosion. This is the most dangerous layer and the least talked about. Over time, through repeated disappointments, through comparison, through a slow accumulation of it's not working, you begin to quietly revise who you believe you are in your business. The bold vision you started with, now it feels naive. The version of you who believed it was possible, it starts to feel like someone you used to know. And you begin to make decisions, not from the woman you're called to be, but from the diminished cautions protect what little I have version of yourself that is exhausted because it's been creating too much. In this, three layers compound each other, and the conventional advice says rest more, delegate more, use a planner. These things treat your symptoms without ever touching the source. The source is not your schedule, the source is your relationship with your own identity, your own energy, and your own calling. That is what we are addressing today. I want to walk you through 5 lies, 5 pieces of unconventional entrepreneurship wisdom that they sound true. Maybe even they have produced short-term results for you, but they are fundamentally incompatible with building a business that is both sustainable and soul alignment. I'm going to name them, and as I name them, I want you to notice what happens in your body because your body knows which ones you have been living. Lie number 1, hustle now, rest later. This perhaps is the most believed and the most damaging lie in entrepreneurship culture. The promise is simple: sacrifice now And in the future, you will reap the reward. Work yourself into the ground in building that phase. And once you hit the milestone, the revenue goal, the subscriber count, the client, then you can breathe. Here's what's wrong with that promise. The nervous system does not work on a deferred payment plan. You cannot borrow against your well being today and pay it back with rest tomorrow. Every time you operate from depletion, you are making withdrawals from a biological account that is not offered infinity credit. And when that account hits zero, your body enforces a withdrawal freeze. That is burnout. That is your nervous system shutting down the operation down because you gave it no other option. But there is something even deeper here that I need you to hear. The woman who rests after she succeeds is not the same woman who had to hustle to survive. Success changes nothing about the pattern if it does not change the identity. Women who hustle their way to their goal and then try to rest find that they cannot because the hustle has become who they are. Because rest now it feels like falling behind. Because the survival brain they got them to their goal does not know how to change that, how to shift from something softer. Rest is not a reward for arriving. Rest is a practice to getting there and staying there, building the practice now, no later, now. And now, lie number 2. If it's not working, you need a better strategy. This is one that is so common because strategy matters. Strategy is real. A bad strategy can absolutely limit your results. But I want to challenge this. The automatic assumption that when something in your business is not working, the problem is tactical. Because in my experience, working with women entrepreneurs, the majority of what it shows up as a strategy problem is actually an energy problem, an identity problem, an alignment problem. Your messaging is not landing, not because the words are wrong, but because you are writing from frequency of scarcity and the reader can feel it. Your offer is not converting, not because the price is wrong, but because you do not actually believe it at the body level that you deserve what you're charging. Your content is not growing your audience, not because the algorithm is against you, but because you are producing from obligation rather than overflow. A strategy layer over misalignment does not create result. It creates more noise over the same signal problem. Before you buy the next course or hire the next strategist, ask yourself, is this a strategy gap or an alignment gap? Because the answer determines the solution. Lie number 3. You can build your way out of your blocks. This one is close to my heart because I have seen so many brilliant women try to implement their way out of internal resistance and exhaust themselves into the process. The belief goes, if you take enough action, if I just create enough content, if I just show up consistently enough, eventually the resistance will dissolve and the results will come. And sometimes in the short term, actions does create momentum, does override the fear. That is real. I am not diminishing this. But here is a category of internal block, the kind rooted on unresolved trauma and deep identity wounds and nervous system programming that it runs below the level of conscious thought. The action alone cannot touch. So when you try to build past those blocks without healing them, you can create something I call the implementation loop. You take intensive, massive action. You burn through that energy. You produce results that they feel hollow or inadequate. You collapse. You recover. You recommit. You take massive action again. And the loop repeats over and over because the root was never addressed. The block does not dissolve under the wake of action. It resurfaces in every new season, in every new way, and every new level of visibility. Dressed in new clothes, but carrying the same wound. Healing the block is lower than building past it. It's faster because a woman who has done the inner work does not have to fight herself on their way to her goals. She moves in one direction with her whole self behind every step. Now let's talk about lie number 4. Your business needs you to be everything. This lie is about ownership, but not the healthy kind. There is a version of entrepreneur ownership that is empowering. I am responsible for my results. I am the one who shows up. I'm the one who does the work. And then there is a version that is quietly destroying the women that they're holding their business. The belief that every part of the business depends entirely on you. That you must be the strategist, the creator, the marketer, the closer, the client fulfillment, the customer service, the social media manager, the bookkeeper, and the visionary. All at once, all the time, indefinitely. That is not ownership. That is pain dressed up in entrepreneurship language. And I want to speak specifically to the women in this community who have been raised either by a culture, by family, or by religion to equate their value with sacrifice, to believe that the more you give, the more you matter, to feel guilty for doing less than everything. Your business does not need you to be everything. Your business needs you to be yourself, fully present, sustainable. And sometimes, often, that means letting go of the task, of the roles, of the responsibilities that they're not actually yours to carry. Not because you're lazy, because you understand that your specific, irreplaceable contribution is what creates the transformation. And protecting your capacity to make that contribution is not selfishness, it's stewardship. And now, lie number 5. Success will make you feel like you will imagine it would. This might be the most quietly heartbreaking lie on the list because many of the women who come to me in a burnout are not early stage entrepreneurs who are struggling to get traction. They are women who have achieved real, measurable success. They have the clients, the revenue, they have the recognition, and they are still on burnout. It's still hollow. It's still waking up exhausted. And they cannot understand why. Because they did everything right. They hit the goals. They built the thing. And then they ask, where's the feeling that I was promised? Here's the truth. External success cannot produce internal fulfillment if you are not operating from internal alignment. A goal built from fear, the fear of not being enough, the fear of financial insecurity, of irrelevance. It will produce a result that it carries that frequency of fear. And arriving there will feel like relief, not joy, like survival, not success. The feeling you are chasing, the aliveness, the meaning, the sense of, yes, this is it, does not come from the milestone. It comes from alignment between who you are and what are you building. And you can access that alignment now, not at the next revenue goal, not after the next launch, now in the way you're building and the way you're showing up and the decisions you're making today. That is what sustainable building actually looks like. I want to take you into the science now because I know that some of you need to understand more than just this, not just the principle, before you can fully commit to change that approach. And the science here is both validating and generally extraordinary. Let's talk about what sustainable building actually looks like in the brain and the body. Your nervous system, as we talked about in previous episodes, operates in two primary modes. The first one is what science calls the sympathetic nervous system state, commonly known as a fight or flight. This is your activation mode. Your mobilization mode is designed for emergency, for sprints, for survival. The second one is the parasympathetic nervous system state, rest, digest, and what researchers are increasingly calling the rest and restore state. This is your integration mode, your creativity mode, your healing mode, the state in which your body repairs, your brain consolidates learning, and your nervous system resets for the next cycle of activation. Here's what almost no one in entrepreneurship talks about. Your highest level of creativity and strategic thinking only happens in the parasympathetic state, not in urgency, not under deadline pressure, not in frantic, adrenaline-filled hustle state the entrepreneurship culture glorifies. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of your vision, your innovation, your ability to see patterns and make meaning, operates at its peak when your nervous system feels safe. Which means, and I want you to let this one land completely, the culture of hustle is neurologically incompatible with the kind of creative, inspired, mission driven work that transformation business require. You cannot access your best thinking from your most exhausted state. You cannot create your most powerful content from depletion. You cannot hold space for your clients' deepest healing when your own nervous system is in chronic emergency mode. This is not a lifestyle preference. This is biology. And the research on this goes even deeper. Science is studying what is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to literally rewire itself. I have found that the brain creates neural connections more efficiently during periods of alternating activation and restoration, not during continuous high output states, not during burnout, during rhythm, the rhythm of effort and recovery, of doing and being, of output and input. The entrepreneur has sustained their creativity, their results over the long term across the years and decades, not just quarters, are not the ones who work the most hours. They're the ones who have developed the most sophisticated relationship with their own energy cycles, who understand their peak of creativity windows and protect them fiercely, who treat recovery not as a concession to weakness, but as an essential part of their production cycle. Now, here's where the spiritual dimension enters. And for me, this is where it becomes breathtaking. Every major wisdom tradition in human history has understood what our neuroscience is only now confirming. The Shabbat principle, embedded not just in religious practice, but in rhythms of ancient agriculture society, reflects an intuitive understanding that sustainable output requires structured rest, that you cannot harvest indefinitely from a field that you never allowed to rest. The traditions across cultures, across centuries, understood that the deepest wisdom does not come from the noise of constant activity. It comes from the stillness that activity cannot reach. And the most effective leaders in human history across business, faith, politics, art have almost universally described their most transformative insights arriving not during the most productive time, but during their most receptive time, during walks, prayers, sleep, during what look from the outside like rest. This is not coincidence. This is a design. You were not designed to be like a machine. You were designed to be a human with rhythm, with seasons, with the need of both fire and quiet. And when you build your business in harmony instead of defiances of it, the results do not diminish. They're deep. I want to introduce one more piece of science before we move into the framework, because it directly addresses something that I hear from women entrepreneurs constantly. They say something like, Karen, I know I need to slow down. I know I need to rest. But when I try, I feel anxious. I feel guilty. I feel like I'm falling behind. I cannot actually relax, even when I have the time. And if that is you, I want you to know this. That is not a character flaw. That is a dysregulated nervous system responding to a stillness as a threat. When your nervous system has been in chronic activation, when high alert has been your baseline state for months or for years, rest feels wrong because your nervous system has calibrated to urgency. And anything that it deviates from urgency feels like danger. This is called nervous system dysregulation and is one of the most important and most under-addressed aspects of burnout recovery and prevention. The solution is not to force yourself to rest and endure the anxiety. The solution is to practice what researchers call nervous system regulation. Gentle, consistent with practice, they gradually retrain your biology to experience safety in stillness, to recognize that rest is a restoration rather than a risk. This is what breath work does. This is what somatic practice do. This is what intentional stillness, prayer, and contemplation do across all traditions that they have understood the value for centuries. Nervous system regulation is not a wellness trend. It is the biological foundation of sustainable entrepreneurship, and it belongs in your business plan, not as an afterthought, but as a cornerstone. All right, we have laid out the foundation. Now let's build on it. Here's the 5 pillars framework I use with my clients to build businesses that they are both powerful, ambitious, and sustainable human. I'm going to take you through each pillar. What is it, why it matters, and what it looks like in practice. Write this down, not because you need to remember all of them at once, but because the act of writing moves information from concept into commitment. The first pillar is the one everything else stands on, and is one of the most entrepreneurs skip entirely because it does not feel like business. It feels too personal, too interior, too soft. It is not soft, it's structural. Your identity, the deep and specific understanding of who you are, what are you called to do, and why that matters. It's the low varying wall of your business. When it is solid, everything built on can withstand pressure. When it's vague or borrowed or built on comparison, everything eventually cracks. Rooted in identity means being able to answer clearly and without hesitation. Who am I at my core? Not as a business owner, but as a human being called to do this work. What is the specific transformation I am here to create? Not in generic terms, but with precision that only comes from knowing your own story. What do you believe about people, about their capacity, their worth, their ability to change that makes this work not just a career choice, but a genuine calling? And perhaps most importantly, what is the version of this work I will still be doing even if no one it was watching or it was no money that it needed to come yet? The last question is the one that it gets to the root. Because when you can answer that, when you can locate the version of the work that it is truly, truly, truly yours, you have found the anchor. And a business anchor and that truth can weather the slow seasons, the failed launches, the comparison, the spirals without losing the foundation. A business built on anything less, on what it seems to be working for others, on what the algorithm rewards, on who you thought you need to be taken seriously, will shake in the first strong wind. Build the identity first. Everything else will follow. Practice every quarter. Set aside 2 or 3 hours, not for strategy, but for identity. Ask yourself, has my understanding of who I am and what I'm called to do, it has deepened in the last 90 days or not? What this season has revealed about my gifts, my values, my specific contribution? How do I need to update the story I am telling about myself in my work? Identity is not static, it evolves, and your business should evolve with it, rooted in what remains constant while growing into what is being revealed. The second pillar is your offer architecture, but seen through a completely different lenses than most business advice will give you. Most offer advice focus on market fit, on what your audience want, on price point, on deliverables, and competitive positioning. And those things matter, but they are secondary to a question that almost no one asks. Does this offer fit you? Not just your skills, your energy, your values, the way you're designed to give and create and hold that space, the rhythms on how you work best, the depth on which you are called to go with your clients. Because an offer does not fit your energy, even if it's beautifully positioned and perfectly priced. It will drain you every time you deliver it. And over time, that drain accumulates into the same burnout you're trying to avoid. I call this being energetically honest about your offers, and it requires to evaluate every offer in your business through three questions. The first one, when I imagine delivering this offer of full capacity, does this energize me or depletes me? Does it call out the best of what I have to give, or does it require me to perform in ways that feel foreign to who I actually am? Second, did this offer serve the people that I'm genuinely, deeply called to serve? Or did I design it for who I thought I should be serving based upon the market research, on what it seems profitable, or on what someone else told me it was the right target audience? Third, is this offer priced in a way that honors the energetic exchange on what I am actually given? Because underpricing more than overpricing is one of the most common causes of resentment, burnout in service based businesses. When you give more than the container of the transaction can honor, you begin to feel taken from, and that feeling compounds. Energetically honest offers are not smaller offers. They are not cautious offers. They can be widely ambitious in scope, in price, in impact, but they are built from truth of who you are, not from the fear of the market they may or might not accept. Now, this is the practice that you need to do. Look at every offer in your business right now. Score each one from 1 to 10. 1 being this depletes me every time I deliver it. And 10, I can definitely do this one and it will sustain me. Any offer that is scores below 5 needs to be checked, redesigned, retired, or hand off. Your business should be primarily built around offers that is scored 7 and above. The third pillar is where the neuroscience we talked about early becomes practical. Regulated rhythms are the deliberately structuring of your work life around your actual energetic cycles, not around an imaginary standard of constant productivity. Here's what I mean with that. You have a natural rhythm. Your body does. Your creative capacity does. There are windows in your day when you think the clearest. Your words come easy. Your courage is high. And there are windows when your capacity is lower, when your body is asking for integration, for restoration, for a different quality of attention. Most entrepreneurs ignore this entirely. They open their laptop when they're waking up and close it when they cannot keep their eyes open. They produce content, respond to emails, take calls, deliver coaching, and manage operations in whatever order that they demand, with no regard of whether they're in the right energetic state for that type of work, or maybe it requires a different energy. The result is inconsistently because the person is depleted, not because they lack capability, but because they are using the highest capacity in the lowest capacity windows. Regulated rhythms mean understanding your personal energy architecture and building your own workday around it. High creativity work, content, creation, offer, coaching, delivering, vision casting, it belongs at your peak window. Protect that time like they are the most valuable business asset, because they are. Lower creativity is administration work, emails, scheduling, booking, logistics. Those belong into low energy windows. This is not wasted time. This is intelligent energy allocation. And then there is a third category that most entrepreneurs not even budget for: restoration time. Not just evenings and weekends, but micro restoration within the workday itself. It can be 10-minute walk, the silent prayer, the breath work practice, the lunch, eating without a screen. This is not luxuries. They are maintenance. That keeps the machine running for a longer time. I also want to talk to you about the seasonal rhythms, because we do not just have daily cycles. We have monthly cycles, quarterly cycles, and annual cycles. And the most sustainable entrepreneurs I know are the ones who have learned how to build their business in harmony with those larger rhythms as well. There are three seasons for launching, and seasons for restoring, and seasons for high output, seasons for deep input, and seasons for visibility, and seasons for hidiness. Resisting those rhythms, trying to operate at launch level intensity indefinitely, is one of the primary structural causes of burnout in ambitious entrepreneurs. Honor the season you are in. Not every season is for building at the same pace. And a woman who understands her rhythms does not apologize for her quiet seasons. She uses them to prepare for the powerful ones. Now, I want you to practice this for 1 week. Track your energy every 2 hours on a scale from 1 to 10. At the end of the week, look at the patterns. When are your consistent peaks? When are your consistent valleys? Use that data to restructure your calendar, moving your highest value work into your highest energy windows and your lowest into your recovery windows. The fourth pillar is one that I'm deeply passionate about because it addresses something that is quietly destroying women in business and is almost entirely invisible: isolation. The entrepreneurial journey is profoundly isolating. You make decisions that most people in your life do not understand. You carry a vision that it can feel too big to share without risking to be ridiculed. Your experience highs and lows that swing so fast and so hard that even your closest relationships cannot always hold the weight of them. And in that isolation, comparison thrives. Because when you do not have genuine community, your primary reference point for how are you doing, it becomes other people's highlights, the reels, the TikToks. And highlight reels or TikToks are designed to make you feel behind. They are designed to make you feel like everyone else had everything figured out. What you're still struggling with, everybody else got it done. And that comparison, that chronic gap between where you are and where you think you should be, is one of the most energy depleting forces in entrepreneurship. Here's what the research on high performing individual consistently shows. The ones who sustain excellence over the long term almost universally attributes to a significant portion of their resilience to genuine community, not networking, not a mastermind where everyone is performing. Real, honest, mutually accountable relationships with people who are in a similar journey. Community does something that no amount of strategy of self discipline can do. It regulates your nervous system through co regulation, meaning when you're in the presence of someone whose nervous system is calm, is regulated, and grounded, your nervous system attunes to theirs. This is a biological phenomenon. We are wired for it. We are wired to regulate our internal state through safe relational connection. This is why the right mentor, the right peer group, the right coach at the right season can shift your trajectory faster than any course or any tactic. Not because of the information they transfer, but because of the nervous system environment they can create. So let me ask you something directly. Who are you building with? Not just who is watching you build, who is actually in with you, who you can call on a hard day and can be fully honest with, who calls your higher when you are in contraction, who celebrates you without jealousy and challenges without judgment. If the answer is no one, that is not a luxury problem. That is a structural deficiency in your business ecosystem. And addressing it is as important as any strategy you can implement in that business. So practice identifying 3 relationships in your life or 3 that you want to build, where the exchange is genuinely mutual, honest, and growth oriented. Invest in those relationships with the same intentionality you invest in your business. They are not separated from your business. They are part of the foundation. The 5th pillar is the one that it requires the most courage and the one that it produces the most freedom: surrender. Surrender isn't a strategy. I need to define what I mean by surrender because in our culture, it has been associated with weakness, with giving up, with defeat. That is not what I mean, not even close. Surrender in the context of building purpose driven business, it means releasing your grip on the specific form your success must take while holding with absolute conviction to the fact that it is coming. It means trusting that the timing of your breakthrough is coming, is inevitable. That the closed doors are not rejection, they're redirection. That the season of slow is not punishment, it's a preparation. It means doing the work with full commitment and full energy and releasing the outcome from the death grip of your anxiety. Because that grip, the desperate, fearful need to the specific result to arrive in a specific form, the specific timeline, is one of the most energy consuming states of a human nervous system can inhabit. I have seen women burn out not from working too hard, but from wanting too desperately, from attaching so tightly to the outcome that every day without the result feels like the evidence of failure. In operating from that state, from chronic anxiety about the gap between where you are and where you want to be, it triggers exactly the nervous system dysregulation we have talked about earlier, which it shuts down exactly the creativity, strategy, and inspired capacity that produces breakthroughs. Surrender does not mean indifference. It means trust. It means bringing everything you have to the work and then genuinely releasing the result to something bigger than your anxiety. Whether you call that God, the universe, your higher self, or the invisible momentum of consistent alignment action. The release is the same, and the freedom it creates is not just spiritual, it's biological. When you release the grip, when your nervous system no longer has to manage the weight of the outcome, you free up extraordinary amounts of cognitive and creativity energy that it was being consumed by worry, by rehearsing failure, by calculating and recalculating whether it's working or it's not. That energy redirects towards inspired aligned action is what breakthroughs are made of. Build with everything you have. Give your full presence, your full creativity, your full courage. And then trust the process to deliver what consistent, aligned effort always eventually delivers. That is not passive. That is the most powerful stance you can take as an entrepreneur. At the end of each workday, write down one sentence completing this prompt. Today, I gave my best and I released the outcome to unfold in its right timing. It is simple, it is powerful, and it begins to rewire your nervous system away from chronic outcome anxiety and towards the grounded confidence of a woman who knows her work is real and her result is coming. I want to close this teaching before we get to the invitation with something that I think is the most important of all. We have talked about what to do differently, but I want to talk about who to become because sustainable building is not ultimately a strategy, it is an identity. And it's a way of being that shows up in every decision, every offer, every piece of content, every client, every interaction. And the woman who builds sustainably, the woman who does this for years, for decades, who grows a business that it transforms lives without destroying her own, she's a specific kind of woman. She has a specific characteristics. And I want to describe her to you, not so you can compare yourself to her, but so you can recognize her inside of yourself because she's already there. She has always been there. She might just have been buried under the pressure and the performance and the fear. The woman who builds sustainably knows who she is. She does not easily forget it. She has done enough inner work to have a stable, rooted sense of her identity that is not primarily dependent upon external validation. She can have a bad launching month and not spiral. She can watch someone else's success and feel genuine joy rather than quiet devastation. She can receive criticism without dissolving, not because she's made out of stone, but because she knows who she is underneath the results. The woman who builds sustainably has made peace with her pace. She understands that her journey does not look like anyone else, and she has stopped needing it to. She does not measure her progress against people's timelines. She measures against her own calling. She knows the difference between a season of growth and season for preparation, and she refuses to call preparation failure. The woman who builds sustainably says no with clarity and yes with conviction. She has learned often through difficult experience that a yes, say it from the fear or obligation, produces a cost that no payment can offset. She says no to the clients who are not hers to serve. No to the offers that they look right on paper, but they feel wrong in her body. No to the opportunities that it will take her further from her center. And she says those no's without so much explanation because her discernment is not cruelty, it's integrity. The woman who builds sustainably does not perform her calling. She embodies her calling. She has stopped trying to sound like a coach or look like a leader or present like a tough leader. She has come home to her own voice, the one that is specific to her, shaped by her story, authorized by her experience, and she speaks from that place without apology. And when she does, when she is genuinely in the room, genuinely present, genuinely herself, the people she's called to serve, they feel it. They cannot always articulate it, but they feel the difference between someone who's performing their expertise and someone who's leaving it. The woman who builds sustainably treats her own restoration is part of her mission. She has released the belief that her value is proportional to the sacrifice. She understands that taking care of herself is not separated from serving her clients, that it is the foundation of it. She rests without guilt. She receives without shame. She taking care of herself with the same quality of attention she will bring to the transformation for others. And the woman who builds sustainably has decided not once, but over and over and over again in ordinary moments that she is worth the business that she's trying to build. That this might be the most radical thing of all. Because so many women entrepreneurs are chasing a business that at the deepest level they do not believe they deserve. And so they self sabotage themselves, they undercharge, they overgive, they shrink their visibility at the exact moment of expansion possible, not because they lack the talent, but because their sense of their own worth not yet expand to hold what their calling is asking them to receive. Doing the work to feel genuinely bodily worthy, not just intellectually, but somatically settle into your own value. That is not self help. That is the most strategic business investment you can make. Because a woman who knows her worth builds differently. She prices differently. She attracts differently. She leads differently. She does not burn out because she's not building from a place that it requires her to deplete herself to prove that she deserves success. I believe that that woman is who you are being called to become right now, not someday, not after the next level, now. She is not waiting for you at the revenue goal. She's waiting for you in the decision to make at the end of this episode, right now, at this moment. I want to close this conversation the way I will close every important conversation, with an invitation. An invitation not to consume more content, not to add another course to the pile. An invitation to a real decision, a committed decision, the kind that it actually creates change. Because here's what I know about the women in this community. You are not lacking information. You are not lacking intelligence or talent, vision, or desire. You have all those things. What moves the needle, what actually shifts the trajectory is decision. Real, rooted, non negotiable decision. So here's what I'm asking you to decide today. Decision number one, decide that you are worth a sustainable build. Not eventually, not when it feels safer or more deserving. Now, decide right now in this moment that you are not available to burn yourself out in pursuit of a business that is supposed to give you a life. Decide that the way you build matters as much as what you build. That the journey is not separated from the destination. That who you become on the way is the most important asset your business will ever have. If you made that decision, if something in you said yes to that, comment below with the words, I am the operating system. Those words are a declaration, a statement of ownership, a commitment that the real work begins from the inside out. I read every single comment, everyone. If you write those words, I will know that something changed on you today. Decision number 2, subscribe to this channel. I say this in every episode, not as a formality, but because I mean it. This is not a channel where I give surface level tactics. This is where I do the real work. The work that the mainstream business world does not have the language for it. The work of building from the inside out, of healing what is in the way of becoming. The work of building from the inside out, of healing what is in the way, of becoming the woman whose business cannot help but reflect her. If you found this episode, you are not here by accident. Subscribe so you are here for what comes next. And share this with a woman in your life who is building something real and has never been told that she is allowed to build it with sustainability. Decision number 3, like this video. It's the smallest action on the list and is a real one. And it tells the algorithm in the universe that this kind of information has a place in business conversations. The women who are building with intention deserve to be found by other women who are building with intention. Click the like button, do it as an act of alignment. And now, the most important invitation of all. If you're watching this right now and you know, and the way that you know things before, you can fully explain them. That what we talked about today is describing your life. If you are building something real, but you are exhausted in ways the rest does not touch, if you have tried the strategies and done the courses and you know that the problem is not the information, that it is something deeper, something internal, something that it requires more than another framework. If you're ready to stop managing your way through your business and start building from a place of genuine alignment and genuine authority, I want to talk to you. Not a sales call, a strategy conversation, a real conversation between two women who are serious about what it means to build something that is both powerfully impactful and sustainably human. In that conversation, we will look at where you actually are, what is actually running underneath the patterns you have keep experiencing, what is the next version of you, the one who has done the inner work and build the aligned business and what it actually looks like, and whether working together is the right next step. I do not work with everyone because not everyone is ready for the next level. The women that I work with are women who are done with the loop, who are ready to go to the next route, the next step, who understand that their business is a direct reflection of their inner world, and who are committed to doing what it takes to change both. If that is you, and you will know if it is, go to therealnextlevel.com and apply. Not because you are broken, but because you are called. And called women deserve called support. Realnextlevel.com. The application is there. It takes few minutes, and it might be the most important few minutes you invest in your business this year. Before I go, I want to say something to you directly. What you're building matters, not just to you, to the people you are here to serve, to the women who need the specific transformation that only you can deliver, to the version of your business that is still becoming, is still unfolding, is still being shaped by the courage of every decision you make to keep going. Your burnout is not your story. Your alignment is your story. In this conversation, this decision to listen, to stay, to let something land, this is part of it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to go deeper when distraction was one click away. Thank you for being the kind of woman who takes her calling seriously enough to take herself seriously. Remember this, it's not another strategy, it's alignment. And I will see you on the next episode. Until then, Take care of yourself. Take care of the woman who's building the business. She is the most important asset you have. You are the operating system. Act accordingly.